Hopefully, Restream behaves a little bit better this time. When we had Frankie on from Red Cow, it was a bit glitchy from time to time.
Yeah.
Wasn't my favorite. Kind of sucked. A little bit embarrassing, being as he's a special guest. But so that should be enough vamping, I suppose. So now comes the part of the program where I say, "Hi, I'm Trevor, and welcome to Catching Up on Cinema." If you aren't familiar with the program, Catching Up on Cinema is a film analysis podcast wherein we introduce each other to films, expand our cinematic horizons, and, in essence, catch up on our cinema. So, it is the month of January 2025, the end of January 2025, and it's once again that very special time of the month where we do our very special Tales from the Shelf episode. And in joining me in this endeavor, I have my good buddy Brad from the Cinema Speak podcast. How's it going, Brad?
Trevor, it is going great. And I feel like I always say, like the month, like it always comes so fast, snuck up on us. But I don't know about you, man, but I feel like, I feel like we haven't chatted in a while. It's great to be here. I feel like it's been long overdue.
Yeah, I get that same feeling as well. Like I don't know what it is. Like we do this regularly, like almost like clockwork, towards the end of every month. But hey, it does, for some reason it feels like it's been a minute. But yeah, pleasure to have you here, Brad. Really excited to talk about our theme for this month's discussion. So, in general, dear listener slash viewer, hopefully viewer, the way we conduct these Tales from the Shelf episodes is that basically, as you may have noticed in the background of our respective webcam feeds, Brad and I both own a substantial amount of physical media. That would be movies, DVDs, Blu-rays, 4K discs, movies, films, TV shows, and whatnot. So, Tales from the Shelf is our platform for discussing our respective collections, swapping stories about how it is we came to acquire some of these movies, and also why we happen to have them in our collection. So each month we try our best to have a guiding thread, like a singular topic, an all-encompassing topic throughout the discussion. And this month, I decided to go with a little something that we're calling Ready, Set, Rewatch. And what that refers to is are movies from our collections that we are kind of excited to check out, to rewatch very soon, like imminently. So not just like movies that you think about and you're like, oh man, that's a great one. I would love to watch that again. But like something that you like find yourself like hovering your hand over and kind of like, I might pull the trigger on that tonight.
The disc is almost in the player. The disc is almost in the player.
Exactly. Like these are movies that like we've both been thinking about, or we have it in the holster ready to go. So, as is customary, I'm going to do my hosting duty here and toss Brad directly in front of the oncoming bus and ask that, hey, Brad, how about you be the first one to share one of your ready, set, rewatch picks? What you got, bud?
Well, it would have been a perfect segue, perfect transition if I had speed, because you mentioned bus, but I don't. But I do have a film from the 90s, the decade where Speed came out. This one is a movie that I really like a lot. And it had not been on Blu-ray for a long time, as far as I know, had not been on 4K for sure. And it finally just came out on 4K a few months ago, but I picked it up and I can't wait to rewatch this movie. And it is Sam Raimi's A Simple Plan, which
Ooh,
I love this movie. It is one of I love that subgenre of the crime gone awry. A Simple Plan, Before the Devil Knows You're Dead, Shallow Grave, the Danny Boyle Shallow Grave. Normal people who commit a crime for money, and then things spiral out of control and they have to commit more crimes to cover their tracks. I love that stuff. I think this is one of the better examples of it. Now, I will say one thing that maybe takes a little bit away from the movie for me is I think the movie's great, but I did read the novel. The writer is Scott Smith, I believe. He also did the screenplay for this movie. The novel has a very, very, very dark ending. And I understand why they wouldn't end it that way. And in fact, it would probably be kind of like it would come off as maybe a little goofy in the context of a movie. But I do kind of feel like the ending of the novel, every time I watch the movie, I'm like, man, the ending of that novel gets so dark, and I kind of wish the movie went that far. It doesn't. But still a great movie. Love the direction. Cast is great. Bill Paxton, Billy Bob Thornton, and just a ton of fun. And I actually haven't even opened it yet, so I might do a live opening right now on the episode. Why not?
Gasp! Wow.
Let's do it. I
Live unwrapping.
I purchased this with swag bucks, so I mean I'm not going to return it. I can tell you that much. I basically got this thing for free. If
So
anybody
yeah.
wants a referral code, I get 10% of your lifetime earnings. Let me know.
It's funny as Brad is opening that. I actually haven't seen A Simple Plan. Is that a Criterion or an Arrow? Or
It is an Arrow
that's what I thought.
release.
Yeah, from the sticker, I figured Arrow.
Yep, and I was a little disappointed that it wasn't one of the big Arrow boxes. It's just a typical, Arrow slipcase.
Yeah,
Because I love the big. I don't have one right here
yeah,
offhand, but the
I
big
got you
hard
covered.
boxes are just beautiful.
Here, I'll show you American Werewolf in
Yeah,
London.
those I love
Yeah,
them. I
see,
love those things.
they're beautiful.
Yep. But yeah, I think you should definitely check out A Simple Plan. I mean, probably. I don't know. I probably wouldn't put it over Evil Dead or Evil Dead 2. But maybe aside from that, I would say, I would say,
What the fuck is this comment?
movie audiences can't handle dark, which is why the dark universe failed. Yes,
It didn't. It didn't fail. It didn't fail. You just gave up on it. Russell Crowe put in work for that dark
he was there
universe.
for it.
Tom
He was
Cruise
there
put in
for it.
work for that dark universe. It was just the audience who couldn't handle it.
Yeah, we let Tom down. We let Tom down. Nobody went to see The Mummy.
I think I rented it.
Yeah, I saw it eventually.
Yeah, but yeah, Simple Plan. I have not seen that one. But I too am a fan of that particular line of like narrative trope of the heist or the simple plan that doesn't exactly go to plan.
Mm-hmm.
It's always fun watching characters have to pivot on the fly, especially when it becomes like a snowball effect, where it's just like one bad decision leads into another, leads into another. There's something gripping about that process of watching people kind of try to like bumble their way across the finish line, and oftentimes they don't quite even make it. Just
Yeah.
that process is always really engaging, and that cast and Sam Raimi at that point in his career has a lot going for it on paper, like just on paper, without me having even seen it. It's just like, wow, that's an alluring project. That's one I'd like to check out. Uh, Starship Men comments, too bad they couldn't put the work into the trailer with no sounds in it. Brad, do you get the reference there?
I don't think so. No.
The Mummy, the Tom Cruise version of it, infamously, and hopefully you can still find this somewhere, accidentally put out a trailer without a complete soundtrack attached to it. So it was like temp sound effects, no music, no sound effects, and it was the plane crash sequence.
I do remember it because like her flying around, you could hear the really bad like
Well,
sound of
it's
her
just
and
like no sound and then just like a squeal, like she goes ah! And it's just like complete dead silent, dead air in between all of it, and then Tom Cruise making an ungodly scream as the plane's going down. It's kind of amazing, honestly. It probably did more to promote that movie on it probably was in the long run a good thing, because the movie didn't do well and they
yeah.
probably knew it was going to do poorly. But anyway, A Simple Plan, Brad. As far as like Sam Raimi at that point in his career, would you say it was like exceptional for him, or I guess not just that point in his career? Is it like a top flight Sam Raimi pick? Is it a top shelf pick, or
Yeah.
is it just kind of in the middle somewhere?
Oh, I would say it's definitely near the top for me. I mean, maybe Evil Dead 2 is tough to beat.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a great one.
but yeah, I mean, was kind of trying to. I feel like he was trying to get into a little bit more quote unquote serious films. I mean, he had done The Quick and the Dead, which I hadn't seen, and then he followed this up with that baseball movie for Love of the Game. But no, I think this one definitely stands out as one of his best, and I'd like to see him kind of get back into, something like this zone, but it's the kind of thing where he's not quite at this level, but in like a little bit of the Tim Burton zone where they just need to kind of like step back and just do something a little more simple. You know what I mean? Like not everything needs to be huge. And I guess Drag Me to Hell was kind of in that zone, but I'd like to see him get into something a little more dramatic, but just a little more, nothing like no big budgets, no big superhero things, just a great thriller, great drama, something like that. Because his tendencies are still, from what I remember, are still here a little bit, but he's way more subdued than you would expect from Sam Raimi, when he's going bonkers off the wall with his crazy direction.
Yeah, I mean, his cinematography, his editing is often what comes to mind. Like, also his sense of humor. In general, his movies tend to be very fun, have kind of an irreverence to them,
Mhm.
even when they get really dark, even when they get really serious. There's still that element of play that's there. But in general, like the look of his movies, the energy in the cinematography, the camera movement, the editing is what comes to mind. It's interesting because like all the still images I've seen of that movie don't like make me think that that's not going to be there really. Like it wouldn't
Mhm.
be. It would feel out of place to have that there. Um, I don't know though. I haven't actually watched the movie, but curious career for that man.
Yeah.
He's done a lot of stuff. He has, as far as I understand, a great work ethic. He has often spoken in interviews and stuff about doing the job. Basically, like it's an honor to be a director, and part of being a director is maybe taking on projects for the benefit of a studio or
Mhm.
just taking a gig kind of and still finding a way to make it yours,
Yeah.
which he's
Yeah.
done plenty of. I mean, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, I he made it. I
Mhm.
wouldn't say it's a Sam Raimi movie through and through. It's a studio effort that has his fingerprints on it.
Oh yeah.
Um, but yeah, in recent years, it feels like his name has mostly been that of a producer credit. Like he doesn't do much directing anymore. But I'd love to see him keep working.
So while we're talking about Sam Raimi, it does say on the back of the 4K here, it lists this movie has allusions to another movie that Sam Raimi says it says this is Sam Raimi's favorite film. What
Really,
is so what is Sam Raimi's favorite film that this has allusions to? Do you have any guesses?
Sam Raimi's favorite film that has
It says not one of, it says Raimi's favorite film with a bullet. Very interesting. Like, did he authorize that? Seems like something you wouldn't say, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't actually have a guess. I've never heard him speak about films that he liked. I mean, he did make a Wizard of Oz movie at some point, so I would assume he has some interest in that. Kyle actually pointed out that USSR movie, V or VIY, V I think is how it's phrased, bore some stylistic similarities to some of his cinematography and stuff. So maybe some Eastern European shit or something. By the way, we have a comment here suggesting Doctor Strange is Sam Raimi's favorite movie of all time. Yeah, I'm sure. Maybe the
So,
I don't know why that's so
um,
funny, but it just is.
it implies that it's the first Doctor Strange. No, I'm crying right now. It's The Treasure of the Sierra Madre, of course. Sam Raimi's
Of
favorite
course,
film.
yeah, of
How did
course.
you not know that's his
How
favorite
did I
film?
not know that, Brad?
I
Jesus.
wanna know what was, remember, what publication was it? Sight and Sound? There was some publication that recently, within the last 5 years, put out a list. It was like like interviewed like so many directors and critics, and they got like 10 films from each, and they made like a list of the thousand, whatever. I can't remember what it was. Was it Empire or, but they would put out all the 10 films that each director gave.
Mm.
And I wonder, if Sam Raimi participated. He probably did because they
It,
got, like, all the big filmmakers.
yeah,
I
and
can't remember what
he
that was.
seems like one of those guys who would be ready and willing to contribute to that conversation. Yeah, that sounds familiar, and that does sound like something Empire would have done. But um, while you're looking that up, I suppose I'll bounce into one of my picks. I may as well just take the reins here. So I'm gonna just grab the one that's closest to me here. Uh, Brad talked about something from the '90s. That's basically the only connection I can form here between these two picks. So I have here also on the 4K format and in Steelbook, which is not a selling point for myself or Brad. We're not Steelbook collectors here. Maybe you are. Um, I have here The Mask of Zorro. This is directed by Martin Campbell, who, of course, did Goldeneye prior to this, and also No Escape, I think is what it's called. The Ray Liotta headlined, not very good action thriller, sci fi action thriller. And also, he did Casino Royale, the Daniel Craig James Bond movie. But he did this one a few years after Goldeneye, and holy shit, this is a fucking film. Like, as far as like blockbuster action films from the '90s, it's hard to find one that tops this in a lot of respects. Like, it just checks so many boxes. It's absolutely gorgeous to look at. Martin Campbell always has had a beautiful sense for stunt work and action choreography, and there's a lot of like oomph factor in how he choreographs action. Like, there's a weight to it that is always appreciated. That's like one of the more unfortunate things about a lot of modern action sequences and choreography. Sometimes is there's a like a weightlessness to it where you don't really feel the impact of what's happening, but you this is like a tooth and nail, like blood and guts, pretty basic, pretty grounded action thriller in the sense that it relies very heavily on traditional stunt work. There's a whole protracted sequence involving some absolutely wonderful horseback riding that just feels like a loving tribute to the source material, to the character of the long history of Zorro, and also the serials, the black and white television series, and the many adaptations of the character. It's a swashbuckler, and as such, it actually like pays homage to it and tops it in a lot of respects. It gives it a new glossy coat of paint for the modern age in which it was released. And just top to bottom, it's just great. Like the cast is wonderful. Antonio Banderas and Anthony Hopkins actually shows the fuck up. He actually gives a shit in this movie. Catherine Zeta-Jones. This is kind of the movie that launched her outside of the UK. And holy shit, what a fucking launch! And then on top of that, you have James Horner's score for the movie, which is tremendous. James Horner is he's one of those composers that I miss the most. It's like him and Jerry Goldsmith are like the two guys that I miss the most when it comes to film scores. James Horner had a knack for just like composing the hell out of movies, or just like very like rousing thematic scores. And on top of that, he also had a tendency to incorporate song into a lot of his films. There was oftentimes a vocal track that accompanied a lot of his bigger movies, and it adds a little something to like the strength of the melodies, where it's like having the end credits reutilize the core melody of the movie, but now with lyrics somehow like brands it into your brain, like sears it into your brain just that little bit deeper. And Titanic is probably the most famous example of that. But this movie has I think it's a Mark Antony song at the end of it. That it's a pretty good one. I wouldn't say it's an outright banger, but I think internationally, at the very least, there most certainly was a Spanish language version of it that I want to say is probably superior. Probably did pretty well. But yeah, I love this movie. Kyle and I actually reviewed it for Catching Up on Cinema, our movie review podcast, um, not too long ago. And we were both like, wow, this is so much better than I remembered it. And I remembered it being very good. Like, as a kid, I really liked this. And I remember being very hyped for it because it had a very strong trailer back in the day. that was on a lot of tapes that I owned back in the day. So like the hype level was very high going into this one when I got to see it in the theater.
Let me ask you
Um,
right here then, regarding that trailer, was this the one or was it the sequel where he does the Zorro swish and Catherine Zeta-Jones's clothes fall off?
it was this one.
Then yes, I do remember that
I
trailer. I
think we all
remember
do,
that
Brad.
trailer.
I think we all remember that one. I think
Yes.
I think all of us of a certain age remember that one. There's also the fun little cut where they take her. She has like a flintlock pistol, and in the actual movie, she's shooting the locks off of doors, which is a fairly mundane activity, especially in a a big bombastic action film. It's like, okay, the lady's knocking locks off of doors. That's not very exciting. So the way they cut the trailer is she pulls the trigger, and the muzzle flash comes out of the flintlock, and then they cut to the mine exploding. It looks like she just launched a fucking bazooka into the miners. Like it cuts directly from that shot to that, and it implies
Yeah.
she just blew up the mine with a little dinky pistol. It's kind of
Nice.
amazing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As Starship Men comments, a lot of boys became men because of that trailer. Yes, a lot of hetero boys became hetero men that day. That and Entrapment. Entrapment, the trailer for Entrapment, Brad, if you recall. I'm sure you recall.
That one I don't I'm not as familiar with.
There's like one shot in that trailer that sold that entire movie, Brad. Nobody remembers that movie. A lot of people saw that movie. It's Catherine Zeta-Jones going under the laser wire, the laser trip wire.
Oh,
She
okay.
she has to like go down on the floor, and it's just like, yep, in 1998 or 99 or whatever, this is all you needed to sell a movie.
Yeah, I don't know if this was on any of my tapes. I'm
Mask of
not
Zorro
sure.
or Entrapment.
Entrapment. I don't the trailer's not ringing any bells for me,
Well, just wait till
but
you get to that shot.
I'll go back and do some research. But yes,
Well,
the Mask of Zorro trailer, I definitely remember that.
yeah, no,
Um,
it's a great movie. Like I said, it's only grown in my mind. Like I've only grown to appreciate it more, especially now that we reviewed it for the podcast. It's like, yeah, that is like one of those movies that like I just talk about it or think about it, and now I kind of want to watch it. Like I didn't actually mention it, but like the reason I picked this one is the reason why it's on my mind rather is because I went to the theater to watch Nosferatu with Kyle very recently, and organically, like independent of me, Kyle brought this movie up. Like I forget the context exactly, but he started talking about the Mask of Zorro, and I was like, "Yeah, that's a fucking movie, right?" And he was like, "I know, right?" And it just so happened that I literally had the Blu-ray in my backpack, ready to hand off to him later that night. Like
oh,
I was going to give a gift to him because I had upgraded this one, and we'd often joked that this was a movie that, like, speaking of movies that you don't own but probably should, Kyle, like this was like one of the core examples of that. And so I had the Blu-ray in my backpack, and I didn't mention it. He brought it up on his own. I was like, oh well, I guess you're in for a surprise a couple hours from now after the movie. So
yeah.
ended the evening by handing it off to him, and it was really funny actually. He was like, oh shit, I willed a Blu-ray into your backpack somehow.
Sometimes it just works out that way.
Yeah, it
I
was just really funny timing.
I thought maybe you were gonna say because Antonio Banderas was just in Baby Girl with Nicole Kidman, and I thought maybe that was gonna be part of your reason. And I thought he was great in that. And I just think, man, this guy, he's so good. And this guy needs to be, first of all, in more things. But we got to give this guy his flowers. I just looked it up. He's only got one Oscar nomination. Come on now, this guy is one of our greats.
Yeah, one of Spain's greats. He was even the fucking Phantom of the Opera, and I think on stage at one point. Uh, I like him quite a lot. His energy, his charm is there's something special about the energy that he brings to things. Like even the Expendables 3, like that's actually a very fine example of the kind of power, the kind of charisma that he has. Is that it seems highly likely that he improvised quite a lot of his scenes in the Expendables 3, but he fucking brings it. Like whatever thin ass material he was handed over for that movie, like makes a performance. He makes a character out of it. It's like, holy shit! I wasn't expecting to feel things in Expendables 3, but he manages to accomplish that. He's great. I didn't actually know he was in that Nicole Kidman movie, but maybe a bit of a big couple of years for him. I mean, he was in Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. He had a cup of coffee on the set. I
Put
think
the
he's in the
new
new Paddington or whatever.
Yeah, I saw that. The new Puss in Boots was a big hit.
Oh, big hit, monster
Yeah.
hit.
So, I
He's
mean,
doing well.
yeah, yeah. No, he's great. And Trevor, don't hang me out to dry here. Don't kill me. But I don't think I've ever seen The Mask of Zorro. I don't think.
Oh wow, buddy. That might be a retro review waiting to happen. I mean, that seemed like 1998, 99 seems like a good. That seems like kind of your year for retro reviews because what Small Soldiers, Monkey Bone, Mask of Zorro would fit right in between all of those.
Yeah, Mystery Men. We did Mystery
Mystery
Men.
Men is also
Yeah,
like 98,
yeah,
99 around there. That seems
yeah,
like that's your sweet spot kind of for your
yeah.
nostalgia viewings.
I don't know why I never saw it. I did have. I think I had because there is a sequel, right?
Put it on the wheel, Brad.
No, no, we can't choose what goes on the wheel. We can't choose.
Be a man.
Um,
Put it on the wheel.
there was a sequel, right?
Oh, don't bother.
Well, I
Don't
just
bother.
because I think I owned the sequel for my PSP. My
Oh no
PSP.
shit. Oh shit. I have a PSP right on my desk.
Oh wow.
I got it at the Portland convention this past year. The retro Portland Retro Game Expo. It's an annual trip for me and my fiance now.
How
Anyway.
much would you be willing to spend for what are they called? UMDs, Universal
Oh
Media
yes,
Disc of
Universal
a
Media Discs.
The Legend of Zorro. How much would you be willing to spend for that to watch on the PSP?
Oh, I have no desire to own any films on the UMD format. I am buying games for it at a steady clip, though. I just
Okay.
picked up Parasite Eve 3, the third birthday. Got it on a pretty good price, but we don't talk about that one. We don't
Yeah.
talk about The Legend of Zorro.
All right. All
PSP
right.
movies were the shit. Were operative word were, but yeah, Legend of Zorro is no bueno. That kid, fuck that kid. Fuck that kid so hard.
It's got a
Like
kid in it.
it's got a kid in it, and he's all over the trailer. And like the moment he pops up in that trailer, it's like my interest level just dropped off a fucking cliff. And Rufus Sewell is the villain in it. He's Rufus Sewell, so that's kind of nice.
Okay.
Doesn't hold a fucking candle though to the pair of villains that you get in Mask of Zorro. There are two villains, Brad, and they're both good.
Hmm.
Like that's rare. Usually like one greatly outshines the other,
Yeah.
Sometimes that's a problem with your balancing your villains in your action movie. They're both great fucking villains. Yeah, Mask of Zorro cannot recommend enough. Definitely put it on the wheel, buddy.
We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I know. Ouch. I'm sorry you got the third birthday as our comment here. I know it's not good. That's not why I got it. Like that's not the point. Like you're talking to a person that owns way too many goddamn Blu-rays, most of which are crappy Blu-rays. That's not the point. When it comes to collecting, it's never the quality of the product; it's what it means to you. And
Mhm.
Parasite Eve 1 and 2, to a lesser extent, mean a lot to me. So I was curious about the third one, even though I know it's dog shit. Still gonna play it. Still gonna sit on it till I die. Anyway, Brad, what is your next ready, set, rewatch pick?
Well, I'll go with this one. I guess I'll get this out of the way here. I told you I was going to limit myself on this episode, and I will because I don't feel like pulling off every movie from this director that I own, even though I do want to rewatch every single one. But
Mhm.
of course, David Lynch, rest in peace. And I have to say, of course, I was heartbroken. And it's I don't know if your circles are the same as mine, Trevor, but the online, re appreciation of his work, I guess, it has been like constant. Like it has not stopped. Like I've seen so
Love
many people.
Fest.
Yeah. And it's kind of crazy because like so many celebrities pass away and you get like a day's worth of like, oh, one tweet or one Instagram post or whatever. But like with David Lynch, like I really think it is because he just had that like kind of, friendly old man nature about him. It felt like we knew him because of his daily weather reports during COVID. Like he really did feel like, like a grandpa to everybody.
Mhm.
And it certainly helps that his films are amazing. And I've long said if I had to pick a favorite filmmaker, he probably is my favorite filmmaker. Like if there's one filmmaker who just their aesthetic just fits what I love, it would be him. And I think pretty much, I mean, every single one of his movies is darn near close to an absolute banger, in my opinion. Um, and so, of course, I've been itching to rewatch many of them, if not all of them. One movie that I have here, I've only seen it once, and a lot of people hold this one in high regard. I wasn't blown away. I still liked it, obviously. Don't get me wrong, but I wasn't blown away by it on my first when I just went through all of David Lynch's films and did some rewatches with some first time watches. Um, and this was probably 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago now. But I have here Lost Highway. Lost Highway, which Trevor, I don't know if this is need to know information, if this is for public consumption, but
No,
there
you
has been
go ahead and
talk.
spill the beans. Spill the
There's been
beans.
talk about us doing an episode of Lost Highway on your show,
Yes.
you, me, and Kyle.
Mhm.
And I'm down for that. Uh, I will say Lost Highway, with David Lynch, like sometimes it's a lot of it is just the vibe and just the feeling and the imagery and stuff. So I get that 100%. I would say first time watch of this, and I think on a rewatch, I might see this in a whole new light. Like the first act of this movie, I thought was absolutely amazing. Like astoundingly good. But after the first act, it lost me a little bit. And that's why I kind of want to rewatch it knowing where it goes, cuz it's in a little bit of like a Mulholland Drive thing where, what we thought was happening might have been different than what we saw in the first act, and that kind of thing. I don't want to spoil anything too much. Um, but I have seen a lot of people who maybe were, they're older than me. Maybe they were like college aged in the late 90s or something, who say this was like a big influence and is up there as one of their favorite David Lynch movies. As of now, I wouldn't put it as high. I mean, I still think it's a great movie. But I am very interested to rewatch and see what my opinion changes at all, if it does on it. So
Yeah, I'm really excited to check it out myself.
now,
As
would this
Brad,
be a first time watch for you?
it would be a first time watch for both Kyle and I, which is
Oh,
that was the whole reason we wanted to have you on, Brad, is because we wanted to have you as an ambassador
well, I
to
mean,
the
this one,
world of David Lynch.
I mean, I can be an ambassador to the world, but I've only seen this movie once, so I can't be too much of an ambassador for this movie.
No, but you know the
Um,
man. You know the
that's
man. You
true.
know
That's
his
true.
work. So
Yeah.
you're better equipped for it, and it would just be fun to have you on. Really, that's a big part of it. But yeah, I haven't seen it. Kyle has not seen it. I don't know why he picked that one specifically, like Lost Highway in particular. I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly why because I never have any fucking clue why Kyle does the things that he does. But we are going to do it hopefully within the next couple of months here. It might be a bit of a delay because we do have like a theme planned for February. Um, but you said the first act of it is astounding, like amazeballs.
Well, first of all, it's a David Lynch movie, so everything is astounding. When I give this movie a 4, it's actually like a 10 out of 5 compared to everybody else's movies, but for him, it's a 4. But I love the setup. From what I remember, I love the setup in the first act because I don't know if this was what Kyle's maybe thought process was, but I would probably say maybe other than Eraserhead, maybe Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, I would say this one is maybe it, it's maybe the most like in the horror genre, especially the first act. Like there is kind of like a little bit of a hook to it that does kind of like feel like it's, very much like a horror movie hook, kind of approachable. And I don't know if you've seen or of, there's an amazing scene with Robert Blake that is really creepy, and like people have cited as one of the scarier scenes in all of David Lynch's movies. So I don't know if that would have anything to do with it. I do also know that Criterion put this out. I have the Kino release. I don't think I've watched this Blu-ray, this disc, so that's why I have not upgraded yet. But maybe what I'll do is watch the Blu-ray, then I'll watch the Blu-ray now. Then in a few months when we do this episode, I'll upgrade to the 4K. Maybe that's what I'll do.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I already kind of did that for in preparation for next month. Not a David Lynch film, but a little bit inside baseball. The Heroic Trio has a Criterion 4K that I've not seen the film. It's a Johnny To film that it was released in a 2-pack. The Heroic Trio and the Executioners is a 2-pack in the Criterion Collection. It's a pretty new release, actually. And next month, we're going to be talking about female headlined action films. And
Ladies'
Kyle,
night.
Ladies' Night Part 2. Last year we did Ladies' Night for the first time, or maybe the year before. May have been a few years ago. But anyway, yeah, Ladies' Night makes a return. And last year we did at least one Michelle Yeoh film, and Heroic Trio is another one. Kyle's a fan. We're all fans. So I actually blind bought that 4K just the other day in preparation for having to do that review eventually. But yeah, something about David Lynch. I think it's the punk rockness of David Lynch that makes him so special to so many people.
Mm-hmm.
Is that there's that interview with him that is just so utterly him that it's beautiful. Is the would you care to elaborate on that? No.
Yeah.
Just the smile on his face and just the blunt faced no. It's not rude. It's just no. I wouldn't. And just how utterly transparent he is, like how utterly himself he appears in all spaces, like regardless of context, he's like the one constant in the universe. David Lynch is always David Lynch,
Mm-hmm.
no matter how you catch him, no matter how you get him. And something about his work, like the auteurness of it, how it just feels utterly genuine, how there's an unknowable quality to it. Like that interview said, would you care to elaborate on why Eraserhead is your most spiritual film? No.
Yeah.
It's like, would you care to elaborate on any of the details of any of your films? No. And
Yeah.
I think that aspect of him, how he in a heavily corporatized, heavily product based, heavily processed environment, like film, basically mainstream film, he comes across as a true artist, like somebody who's doing it, who's pouring something out of his soul onto a canvas in the form of celluloid.
Mm-hmm.
It's just what he wants it to be, not any real agenda beyond that.
Yeah. I mean, people pointed out, like, I mean, it's pretty rare for a filmmaker to get the um, descriptive of something being, like Lynchian, like your
Mm-hmm.
name becoming a description for a style. Or, I mean, yeah, I guess Hitchcockian and Kubrickian.
Kubrickian, yeah.
I mean, I can't really think of any other ones off the top of my head. Like, I mean, that's pretty. I mean, I guess maybe Spielbergian,
Spielbergian is
but
definitely
like,
one.
I've
No,
never heard.
there's a few, but it's a very very select few.
Yeah. So I mean that's pretty impressive, and it's just interesting too cuz like thinking about him in terms of just like the general public, like I like talking to the normies, I'm like I'm over here devastated for the last 3 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
and somebody says, "Oh, why are you crying?" And I say, David Lynch died." And I say, "Who's that? Huh?" So I'm like, oh well, he's the guy who directed I don't know if you would know anything, like, what I mean, like probably Twin Peaks would be
Yeah.
the big thing. But I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's just interesting that he had such an impact, and especially with like people that are into movies and film, had such a like everybody, just everybody's been depressed, but the general public, I feel like he, you know, he's certainly been very influential. It's just interesting, like just the difference between you and me and the normies. All right, that's all I'm trying to say.
No, I mean when you mention it, like yeah, as far as like mainstream films, films that you could safely assume most people would know the names of or have seen, uh, really doesn't have many. Like
No,
unless they're older and or like really, really, really into sci-fi movies or something, maybe Dune, but that's a big maybe because like, just the age of that film, I think, to contemporary audience, it might be enough of a turnoff, regardless of the quality of it or the
yeah,
subject matter. Elephant Man was a moment in time. I don't think if you I don't think you fall ass backwards into the Elephant Man.
no,
I
no.
think you have to look for the Elephant Man, despite it doing quite well in the mainstream. Um, with the Straight Story or whatever, that's a Disney branded film, I think.
Yep,
But
yeah.
it's is it on Disney Plus?
It was on Disney. I remember when that came on Disney Plus, I was so excited. I was like, "Yes, David Lynch on Disney Plus. Let's go."
I mean, that is kind of neat that he did that.
Mhm.
That's a thing that
Yeah.
he did. And Eraserhead, anybody who went to an art school to any degree, like a liberal arts school, at least knows the name, even if they haven't seen it. More than likely, they haven't seen it. But if they went to an art school to any degree, they at least are aware of it.
I remember specifically, I don't think well, it certainly would have been it wouldn't have been my introduction to David Lynch because I watched Twin Peaks when I was in middle school or high school or whatever, but, when I was a freshman in college, there was the film club or whatever, and I don't know how, but there it was, like, 2 guys who were running it. I'm sure they were great guys, but they were a little, what's what I'm trying to say? They were they were kinda like schmucks, you know what I mean? Like, in the best possible way, but seemed like nice guys, even though
Ponytails.
no, no, maybe the one guy did have a ponytail, maybe, but
What kind of hairline we dealing with here?
I think they still had full heads of hair, like, kinda maybe one had, like, a little bit of a bowl cut, maybe,
Okay,
um
yeah, that fits.
and one guy who actually no, I'm not gonna be I'll be nice to one guy. One guy actually, I remember he was actually very rude about some people, and so
Yeah, is somebody who heads up a school based film club is a dick? Is a little gatekeepy, Brad? Never happened.
Okay,
Never
alright.
happened.
So I'm not gonna feel bad.
No nerd has ever barred access to anything.
I won't feel bad for calling them schmucks. Although I'll say the one guy was a schmuck. The one guy actually was very nice. But anyway, this is way off topic. I just remember at one point where, like, I think because we could only watch copyright free movies
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
club.
yeah.
So we were like on YouTube or something, like looking up copyright free movies or whatever. I don't know. But um I just remember at some point a clip of Eraserhead showed up on the YouTube thing or something. And I remember the one schmuck, the one that was like kind of a mean schmuck, he just like stood up and pointed at the screen. And when Eraserhead was there, he was like, "That's a fucked up movie," and he was like mad at it. And I was like, "Whoa!" And I hadn't seen the
Whoa.
movie, and I was like, "Dude, that movie must be really fucked up." And I watched it, and I was like, I don't know what I mean, yeah, it's out there and it's weird, and yeah, I guess to a normal person you might think, yeah, it's effed up, but definitely didn't definitely did not think it was that did not need that kind of reaction. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah. No, I mean, saying something like that, especially with younger folks in the audience who are at a a film club or something, that's just going to make them want to watch it more. It's
Yeah.
like keep your
Yeah.
mouth shut. Like if you have strong feelings against it, like keep your mouth shut. You're just going to make it more interested.
I
I saw Eraserhead in college. it was like a, I think they put it on in the background or something when we had like a free study session in one of my classes. I think the instructor actually made some props for Dune,
Hmm.
for David Lynch's Dune back in
Okay.
the day. Like I
Nice.
remember him talking about that. Cool guy. I liked him a lot. Actually made a poster for that gentleman. By the way, Honest Piranha Labs Productions is Chase Keys, who I don't know if the show is still on hiatus or if it's, I don't know the current state of the show, but the show is called SNEScapades. It's a lovely podcast about the SNES catalog of video games. Chase Keys comments, "We'd like to bring this film this film club to order. Today we'll be talking about a really obscure movie. You've probably never heard of it." That is 100% accurate to the vibe that I was kind of projecting onto
Yeah.
Brad's group just
Yep.
then.
Yep.
But Santino, you still here? It looks like you are. Being as this last comment here, nerds are always accepting with open arms. Absolutely, absolutely, the most accepting of people. um,
Yes.
I'm glad you're still here, Santino, because this one is largely just for you. By the way, Chase Keys comments, unfortunately, very sad to hear that. I was already told this, but now it's confirmed, I guess. Nope, the show is gone. Hopefully, all is well for both yous and Amy. Emmy, excuse me, Emmy Zero. Um, so, now to bore everyone else in the room who isn't Santino, who says yo, by the way. Thanks for confirming your presence. Sometimes Santino gets his comment privileges revoked by YouTube because he spams too often, and I think it thinks he's a bot. Snescapades is gone forever. Sorry to have to break the news here. Well, I'm glad you broke it somewhere to all three of us in here, but appreciate it, man. Thanks for tuning in, by the way, and commenting. So I'll give myself the single here, and like I said, everybody's about to get real bored. So Chase Keys, feel free to sign off now. So Santino, this is almost entirely for you because you'll get it. Captain America, the Winter Soldier. Now, Brad,
Oh my
I,
gosh.
yeah, that's the reaction I was hoping for. Yeah, conflict. We never get that on this podcast because I never actually want it. We're nice people here. Um, that's kind of our brand. Brad just made a groan noise, and the reason for that is this movie carries a sterling reputation among the middling reputation of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. However, Brad disagrees. You've always had it out for this movie, and I don't know if you've ever exactly articulated why. But now I'm going to give you an opportunity to, Brad. What is your beef with Captain America: Winter Soldier?
I mean, to be honest, I haven't seen it in a while. I guess I need to rewatch it, but I remember it was like the hype was high because that was like the Marvel universe was at its peak, and I remember it came out and people were like this is the best Marvel movie yet. It's so mature. It's like a 70s political thriller, and I remember going into it and thinking, "Oh, this is gonna be great! Wow!" And watching it and coming out the other end and thinking like that was not as maybe it was just the hype, but I was like, man, like I didn't think that was all that great. Like, I mean, the action is okay. Like, I mean, it's pretty good, I guess, but like it's a few moments of great action, like the overpass fight or whatever. That's pretty good. But I don't know, just the plot got so like shield heavy and MCU it just like I don't know. I kind of was the beginning of the end for me. Like that was the first crack in the facade of the MCU, and it kind of has crumbled ever since there. And I in fact I saw that movie in theaters. There was 3 of us. It was me, Charlie, and not the Matt that's on my show, but another Matt. And I remember we came out of the theater and like everybody's just screaming and cheering. And they're like, this is the best MCU movie ever. This is the best 70s political thriller ever to come out of that wasn't made in the 70s. And me and Charlie just we kind of looked at each other and we were like, I don't really get what the fuss is all about. I mean, that was okay. It was fine. Okay. And then I remember I actually went and saw it again in theaters. Um, and it was partially, it was it was a few of us, but it was the only reason I went was because there was somebody that I was how should I say this, interested in getting a phone number from, and they were going, and I
Oh,
said, don't want to go see this movie again, but I feel like I need to. And it was the worst decision of my life. Worst decision of my life because I went and saw that movie again in theaters, and it was just it was torture. It was absolute
it it
torture.
it was horrendous.
It was horrendous.
To quote Brad on his own show. By the way, Chase Keys comments, "Oh, Brad's gonna go start a university movie club where the real films will get exhibited."
Listen, I love the MCU up to that point. I was flying high. Was Thor: The Dark World before or after that? Because I was even defending that movie.
I have the benefit of a visual aid here, and it looks like Thor: The Dark World directly preceded it, and
Okay.
Guardians of the Galaxy came directly after.
Yes, that's right. Yes,
So
that's
things rebounded. You know, it got better. It got, but I can top you on that, Brad. I remember going to see Men in Black 2 because there was a person that I maybe kind of wanted to get a phone number from. Men in Black 2, I think, is a little bit worse than Captain America Winter Soldier. And no, I did not get that number.
I
So
mean,
are you
yeah.
telling me, Brad, that your beef with this movie stems from the fact that you paid probably $30 to watch it in the theater?
And I didn't even like it the first time.
And you didn't even like it, so you paid $30 to watch a movie you didn't like very much, and you
Yes.
want those $30 and those 4 hours of your life back?
Listen, I don't care about Bucky. I don't like listen, and I realized I used to think I don't care about Bucky. I don't like Sebastian Stan. But then this year,
He's
Sebastian
flying
Stan
high.
has been amazing. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I love Sebastian Stan. I just hate the character Bucky. I don't care about that character. I don't care about any the Captain America. Maybe I just don't like Captain America. That whole universe, I just it's not doing anything for me. In fact, I think the first one is the best one. I like the World War II one. I like that. I think it's fun. These
I
ones, they're a little too like they're too serious. Like they think I think they think they're better than they are, and like they need to have a little more fun.
I think that describes quite a lot of the Russo's filmography, if I'm being honest.
Well, we
It's,
don't even need to get started with them. Listen, these
yeah,
people that were coming out, this is the best Marvel movie. What? Tell me, outside of the MCU, what's your favorite Russo brothers movie? Huh? Huh?
I don't.
Cherry? The Gray Man?
That, oof, the Gray Man
Let's
is rough.
let's go.
Gray Man's real bad. Like my fiance watched that one for me and with me rather, and good God, the Gray Man is just sludge. It is content sludge.
Yeah.
Awful, absolutely awful. And Cherry's the one that has the butthole shot, correct?
Yep. Classic.
Uh,
Classic.
POV from like shooting up from out of Tom Holland's butthole.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
like literally the only thing anyone has to say about that movie. But yeah, I mean
Yeah.
they're TV directors. That's their background, and the MCU's brand is gray. Like fittingly enough, gray, like straight down the middle. Pitch it straight down the middle is kind of what
Mhm.
they're good at. I will say that they're pretty good at balancing like character. Like they're respectful of playing with other people's toys, and I think as an MCU director, that's what you're expected to do: is don't rock the boat, just make like represent the characters well, and let the special effects and stunt people do their jobs, and then just coast. We're all good.
Mhm.
By the way, if you have some more comments here, MCU's over. They don't deserve the X-Men. I mean, yeah, MCU is
They're
in
done.
real trouble. My engagement level with the product is it. I mean, that's the thing. If anything persists long enough, it carries on even if you go away, and inevitably, like at a certain point, they'll hit a high again, and you'll probably end up coming back to it if you care at all. That's my relationship to pro wrestling. Is I don't watch weekly wrestling. I don't have enough fucking hours in the day to watch 3 hours of fucking Monday Night Raw from week to week. I check back when something interesting happens, though. And same goes with like Ninja Turtles. Ninja Turtles has basically not stopped since that original cartoon came out. But you know, people go on, they live their lives, they have kids, and then their kids end up watching the current iteration of Ninja Turtles. And hey, now I'm a dad, and now I'm into Ninja Turtles all over again, or whatever.
Mhm.
And the same will probably happen if they just knuckle down and keep pushing on ahead. Is eventually they'll hit another high, and some people will come back. But yeah, they're in a fucking pit at the moment because it ain't pretty. By the way, we have another comment from Santino. The show Deadly Class, and he has a pushback to that. Hey, the X-Men are gonna save the MCU. I don't know if they deserve the X-Men, like, but we'll see, we'll see. But yeah, like mostly, I picked this so I could give Brad a platform to yell about it. I'll be totally transparent. I just
Getting
wanted to
me
hear.
worked up.
I just wanted to hear you get worked up, Brad, and I had a blast. I don't know about you, but
I
also
mean,
it's worth.
I would like to give it another go, I guess, to because I mean, I would say time has proven my opinion to be right based on where the Russo brothers have gone in their career. But
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know. We'll see. It's not like it was a movie. It's not like the Russo brothers went on to go make amazing pictures, and I was like, man, maybe I was wrong about that first one. Um, and if anything, I think I stand my ground. But maybe I need to just go in and give it another shot. I don't know.
yeah. I'll be quick, but I'll say that I did enjoy this movie, especially the first time I watched it. I actually like the Captain America comics quite a lot, regardless of like what you might think of the character and like the jingoism that you would likely assign to a character who bears the name Captain America. Like in general, like the character is represented as being like a morally just figure. Like there was that whole the Captain arc where I think it was in response to the Nixon administration. He actually gives up the title of Captain America because he's not happy with the direction of the country at the time. And so they assign someone else to take on the role who will end up being US agent. It's one of my favorite Captain America stories. They kind of represented it in that Falcon and Winter Soldier show. Not as well as I would have hoped, but I'm just really happy we have US agent in the MCU. It's a very interesting character, the dark side of Captain America, like the ugly, the guy who looks the part but is ugly on the inside, as opposed to the guy who walks the walk and talks the talk. Like the one guy has the look, but he doesn't have the spirit. U.S. agent, that is. Very interesting story. I like Captain America. I've read a lot of Captain America comics. I've always had an affinity for the character. I too like the first movie, the Joe Johnston one. I think it's pretty good. Santino, yes, he'll be in Thunderbolts. Very excited to see that one. I really enjoyed the. I mean, Warren Ellis confirmed bad person as far as I understand, but his post Civil War run, or in the midst of Civil War run on Thunderbolts, was a great entry point to that team, and I got a lot of mileage out of it. I enjoyed it quite a lot. So yeah, I'm super hyped for Thunderbolts as well. Um, but yeah, the Joe Johnston movie I liked quite a lot. I had a really fun story about seeing that one where I was visiting a friend in Arizona, and I had extra time on my hands, and we had just dropped off my other friend at the airport, but my flight wasn't for a few hours, and we were pretty close to a theater, so we just walked into Captain America.
Walked across the runway, hopped the fence, and
just Tom Cruise ran down the tarmac. But yeah, like while like in the downtime I had waiting for a flight, basically I went with a good friend of mine to go see a movie, and it just so happened both of us were Captain America comic fans, and we liked it quite a lot. It captured the spirit really well, and Joe Johnston, who had done the Rocketeer, who really seemed to get the throwbacky, like pulpy quality of a movie set in the 1940s, like worked really well. But this one, like really a big part of it was one, Henry Jackman's score actually, I thought was exceptional by MCU standards, because a lot of MCU movies have dog shit scores. They're really flat, not very thematic. This one does a little better in that area. Henry Jackman's score for this is pretty good. Bucky's theme is a little too close to the Why So Serious track from The Dark Knight. It a little too close with the grating metal and the screaming sounds and stuff. But like the Captain America theme, a lot of the action cues are really really solid stuff. And moreover, what was really fun about this one was the stunt work. It was really fun seeing them do the power scaling stuff for Captain America, like represent it really well on film, arguably for the first time. Because Captain America 2011, I think, um, action scenes aren't the strength of that movie. The vibe is like the spirit of it, and the aesthetic of it are kind of the strength of it. But the action design is pretty perfunctory. This one, they do some really cool stuff where they remind you that it's like he's not just a guy. Like he's the strongest guy. He's as strong as a person can be and as fast as a person can be. And they do a really wonderful job of incorporating that into the choreography. Having GSP, having George St. Pierre as Batroc the Leaper in the opening was like that was great. Right? Like I really enjoyed that, and it's a really fun action sequence that really does a good job of representing to the viewer this is what Captain America can do. He's not just a normal guy. So yeah, I wouldn't say that this is an amazing film. I actually agree with most of what Brad had said. It's kind of spotty at times. It has real high highs, but it mostly coasts. Like the in between beats are not particularly engaging, and the plot. A lot of these movies, with the exception of the first one, have a tendency to move past Cap as a character. They seem to just want to have nothing to do with him and want to talk about everything around him, and
Mhm.
that's kind of a huge sin on their part. But I'm excited. I want to rewatch this one because obviously we have a new Captain America coming out next
I
month.
I just want to say, like, when I was, dogging on this movie, I mean, full disclosure, I this was pre-letterbox, so I don't have an official star rating, but it'd probably be like a 2, 2.5, or a 3. Like, it's I don't hate it, but I just remember at the time, I don't even remember, Trevor. At the time, the hype was it was getting like people were raving about it, and I just thought I was in La La Land. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, I didn't have access to any social media stuff for like posting in public spaces about movie reviews and stuff. But in general, I think the movie has a pretty good reputation. I would like to rewatch it because I was kind of shocked. 2014, Brad. It's been over 10 years. And I probably haven't watched it in 8 years. So I would like to reevaluate it. I This is the whole premise of today's conversation is Ready Set Rewatch. These are supposed to be movies that we're really anxiously like wanting to watch like right fucking now. This is a movie I honestly kind of want to watch right fucking now. And a large part of course, has to do with we have a new Captain America movie coming out, which doesn't look promising, but I'll still see it. And yes, Santino, damn, we are old. And by the way, before we move on, though, so I'll pass the pick back to you, Brad, because I went on and on. I'm sorry.
I
Chase
went
Keys.
on and on.
Well, I'm glad. I might have to post a clip of that. That was a great ass rant. Chase Keys commented, "The Ninja Turtles had a really excellent IDW comic run. I agree. I didn't read that much of it, but I did enjoy it. The What was it like the origin of the Foot Clan or whatever? It was a fun little like four-parter, like a graphic novel size story. Some really great art in that IEW Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic. I would love to read was it the last Ronin or whatever. I've heard good things about that. It generated a lot of buzz online, especially outside of like comic book conversational spaces. Okay, Brad, what is your next Ready Set Rewatch pick?
Well, my next pick, I'm going a little off the board here because it's not a movie. I've got a show that I want to rewatch, which does not happen much, but I think that is a testament to how good this show is. And I have here the complete series of Better Call Saul, the Breaking Bad prequel show. Now, one of the things that's holding me back from this is that I feel like if I were to rewatch Better Call Saul, I feel like I'd be obligated to do a full Breaking Bad rewatch, and I don't know if I want to commit to that. That's a lot. But um I feel like Better Call Saul is maybe a little underrated because um it came out after Breaking Bad, and I feel like it started at the highs, the heights were high, but I feel like a lot of people kind of dropped off of it as it went. And it's funny because I actually remember like having friends in college. We were, you know, watching Breaking Bad, and then what we watched Better Call Saul, and we watched the first couple seasons, and I was pretty like critical or skeptical of it at first. I was like, I don't know, like I don't know if it's doing enough to be its own thing, but it took a couple seasons, and I felt like the show got better and better and better as it went on. And there is I think it's in season 3. There's an episode, I won't spoil anything much, but Saul's brother testifies. He gets on the stand for something, and that episode kind of came out and like just blew me away. And I was like, whoa, this is like one of the best episodes of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. This is amazing. And I thought the show got so good. And it's funny because like I was critical of it at the start. By the end, I was like, I think this is better than Breaking Bad. I think it's more interesting. I think it went to way more interesting places. And then like a lot of people that I knew just like they were like, oh yeah, I gave up after the second season. And I'm like, oh, what are you doing? I stuck with it, and I was the one that wasn't even sure if I liked it at first. So I do want to go back and like watch those first 2 seasons, because I think now that I can see the full picture, I think I would be fully on board with it. But I think the ending is a lot more difficult, I guess. It's not like I feel like my I do think Breaking Bad is a great show, but my criticism of it is the ending is like a little too clean.
Mm.
Um, and I feel like Better Call Saul has a really great sort of powerful ending that isn't necessarily like a feel good ending or anything like that, but it just feels very true, I guess. And yeah, I think it's an amazing show, and I would love to rewatch it. Obviously, tough with the show finding the time to carve out to rewatch it, um, especially when there's like, you know, an entire other series to go along with this one that I would feel obligated to watch. And then the whole thing is like, do I start with Breaking Bad and then do Better Call Saul? Or this time, do I start with Better Call Saul, then I do Breaking Bad? Or do I break it up because Better Call Saul has parts that take place after Breaking Bad? It's a whole thing. But anyway, it's an amazing show, and I would highly recommend it.
Who put out those discs?
Just Sony Pictures, I believe. And
Gotcha. Yeah,
it's
let
a
me see
little,
that
I mean,
box there.
it's all right. I mean, it shows the decline in physical media, because I have my Breaking Bad barrel up on my
Yeah,
shelf over here, which is
the
amazing.
barrel.
This they just put out, you know, it's just in a box, and it's kind of like
They just farted out.
it's pretty like the discs are very precariously in here.
Oh,
Like,
those spindles break so
yeah,
easily.
I know. It's like be very careful when you're moving the. Oh boy, like even now I'm scared.
Santino commented, and don't forget the movie 2. Is that included in your box?
No, I don't know if you can get the movie, because it was a Netflix movie. I don't know if you can get the movie physically.
Is that El Camino or whatever?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if you can or not. I
I
feel
will
like
check right now because I'm curious. Because that is a. We've talked about that subject on this podcast before about how things that are stuck in streaming only are very vexing, especially things like that. That you know, there's a lot of people out there who would love to have on their shelf,
Mhm.
especially you know completionist folks. It is you know a massively successful television series. Looks like there is a Blu-ray of it.
Okay.
Uh, it's a limited edition, though. Blu-ray is currently $60 on Amazon, uh, and it looks like I'm not positive if it's American or not, though. It
Oh,
may be a foreign Blu-ray. It may be like French or something.
that would make sense. Um.
Dario the
Uh.
Hungry comments, "Missing out, bro. You're in for a treat whenever you do." That's directed at me. I haven't seen Better Call Saul or Breaking Bad for that matter. Yeah, I feel like a stooge on my movie slash TV podcast, where more often than not I have to say haven't seen it, but I know its reputation really well. Is it the same showrunner as Breaking Bad?
So I think technically the showrunner was different on Better Call Saul. I think it was Peter Gould who did Better Call Saul, but Vince Gilligan was still like he directed episodes. He still was like very heavily involved, but I don't think he technically was the showrunner.
Okay. Okay,
Um,
so like shared custody of the thing or
yeah,
something.
yeah. But I
Gotcha.
mean, they're both great. Obviously, I just think Better Call Saul operates in a little bit more of like a gray area in terms of its good versus bad and sort of thing. But yeah, no, it's phenomenal. And like everybody has mentioned, like how by the end of Breaking Bad, it was winning all the Emmys, and like it was like people kind of were like, "Oh yeah, this is a great show. We're gonna give it all the awards." And Better Call Saul didn't win a single Emmy throughout its entire run, which is kind of insane. So
That's nuts. For that show's reputation, I don't know what its competition was, but I would have just assumed it would have done very well in award season.
yeah, I mean, it got lots of nominations, but never won. So
Damn. But yeah, as far as like high quality TV series, like must watch kind of stuff, Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, both of them are very high on my list of things where it's like if I find myself in a spot where it's like, I've got some time and I would like a show to watch like on the regular with my fiance or something.
mhm.
That might be one I suggest. It's something we've talked about plenty of times, but shows are not something I do very often. Something about the time investment is very, very, very intimidating to me. The enjoyment factor's there. I tend to enjoy shows just fine. My fiance prefers them greatly to movies. It's a fucking chore to get her to sit down for a 2 hour movie, but she will binge the fuck out of an 8 season television series.
Mhm. Yep.
I don't know how that works, but that it is what it is. But speaking of shows, I actually have her. I got her to start watching an anime with me, Santino. Hajime no Ippo is one of the few anime that I like have an affinity, like a very strong affinity for. Actually, care about it quite a lot. I actually own like 100 volumes of the manga. Probably, I haven't kept up on it very seriously. It's like one of the only Japanese reading tools that I have at my disposal because it has a furigana, which is it allows you to read kanji in hiragana, which translates the words into phonetics basically. So even if you can't read the characters, you can sound it out and guess at the meaning or something. Uh, 1 year, one series, says Santino. This is an inside joke, dear listeners slash viewers. One Piece 1 year. By the way, Santino, I don't think I've ever told you. I've told Brad this. I don't think I've ever told you, Santino. But if I see somebody in a Luffy hat, like a straw hat, like walking around in public, and I go to places where people do this. So, like, I live in Seattle. People do this shit. I will shout out, much to the chagrin of my fiance, One Piece 1 year. And people look around like, what the fuck just happened?
It's spreading. The idea is
It,
spreading.
it's a one person, it's a 3 person inside joke, and it humiliates my fiance in public, and I guess that means I'm doing it right. I'm future husbanding well. But yeah, Santino, oh nice, I still gotta watch it. Yes, you do. Hajime no Ippo is 75 episodes plus an OVA plus a movie, but just recently on Netflix, they apparently acquired the rights to the other 2 subsequent seasons of the show. So that's 50 more episodes. So I got her on the hook. I got her on the hook for 150 episodes of animes. But she actually loves it. Like, she likes it a lot. Like, I was really surprised. Like, there's some stuff in there. There's some misogyny in there that really doesn't work for her. But on the whole, she likes it quite a lot. So anyway, that's what I've been watching lately.
1 year, one Hajime.
1 year, one ippo. I mean, actually, ippo means one step. So like one step, one
1
year,
year.
maybe.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah, yeah. 1 year, one step. Uh, I've seen it at Lollapalooza. Someone dressed as Luffy. Did you shout "One Piece 1 year"? By the way, there is a Lollapalooza in Hajime no Ippo. It's the finale of the first series. Just weird connection there. Netflix is killing it with the animes, says Santino. Wouldn't know. I don't live in that world, Santino. I've merely dipped my toes into it 30 years ago because Hajime no Ippo is from like the year 2000 when I still gave a shit about this stuff. Anything else to say about something other than what the fuck I just talked about for 10 minutes, Brad?
No, no, I think that most
No.
no, yeah.
No, the correct answer would be no.
Bullshit.
Bullshit. It's such a sadness. David Lynch quotes for days. Miss that guy. Didn't even know him that well, but I still miss him. Okay, Brad. You want to head into the speed round, or should I do one more?
That's your call, man.
Okay, I'm gonna do one more. Just because. No, actually, fuck it. Let's head into the speed round. I just don't have it in me. So, Santino says, I was very drunk, and while Red Hot Chili Peppers were playing and we're talking about Gear 5, well, good for you, I guess. Maybe I should do one more pick, Brad. Should I do one more pick?
You can do a quick one. You can do it quick.
I can do a quick one. Okay. Well, here. I don't know what's going to be, though. Okay. It's going to be one that, again, came up in conversation with Kyle very recently and actually is surprisingly relevant. Not to anything we've talked about today, but same conversation with Kyle. He brought this up of his own volition because apparently he tried to watch this on his own, independent of me. Santino comments, the One Piece fan will understand that hype level. Sure they will. And apparently this was one of those movies that Kyle just couldn't really get into it that much. But this is like a certified classic in my book. This is a special movie in a lot of respects. This is Godzilla versus Biollante. And it says there, first time on Blu-ray and very loud and proud from the Weinstein house. Confirmed bad person, Harvey Weinstein's Miramax.
Cancel button.
And it's from Echo Bridge Entertainment. Now, the reason I say this is somewhat relevant is that this film actually it was picked up and is going to be distributed by the Criterion Collection.
That's why, yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, mm-hmm. So I'm guessing this when I first saw this movie, this was a really big deal movie for me personally because I was born in 1987 and I've been a fan of Godzilla my entire life essentially. Like apparently there was like a guy in a monster costume on the streets when I was a baby, and my mom said I went apeshit. Like I was really happy to see that guy in that monster costume. He was in a Godzilla suit. So I've been a fan of Godzilla since the cradle, apparently, and that persists to this day. Anyway, being born in the late 80s, when it came to Godzilla movies, you had English dubs of everything. You had what was on TV, like late night on sci-fi networks or whatever. You had TNT Monster Vision. You had whatever VHS tapes you had at your local mom and pop video store. But then there was a cutoff date. So as we headed into the 90s and the Heisei era of Japanese Godzilla films was continuing to be produced from 1984 to 1995, we didn't get those here for many, many years. I got them in the form of bootleg tapes in middle school. But prior to that, we were starved for new Godzilla movies in the 80s and 90s. There was a dearth of them. They were not importing them here for many, many years, not until like the 2000s, essentially. Not until the Roland Emmerich movie, basically, 98, around there. And Godzilla 1985, for the longest time, was the last Godzilla movie that we got on American shores. And then this one also came out. This movie came out in Japan in 1989, and I imagine came out in the States on VHS, maybe 1990, somewhere around there. And I remember when it came out, it was like this big, like, whoa, this is the first time a new Godzilla movie has ever come out in my lifetime. Because remember, I was born in 87, Godzilla 1985/84 was before that. So this was the first new Godzilla movie I ever was aware of. So when this came out, me and my friends were like, whoa, there's a new Godzilla movie. It didn't come out in theaters. And it came out on VHS with, I think it had the HBO branding on it. So I think they held the distribution rights for it back in the day on VHS. But whoever held the rights to this, until very recently, apparently, it must have lapsed because Criterion now has Godzilla versus Biollante, and it's now coming out on. I don't know if it's 4K. It might be. A lot of their stuff's coming out on 4K now.
Yeah, I would think it is. I'll confirm.
But yeah, this is a fantastic Godzilla movie. It's a weird Godzilla movie. It goes places that no other Godzilla movie really had tried to prior to it. And it's one of the very, very, very few cases wherein a contemporary Japanese Godzilla film has special effects that are virtually on par with that of like Hollywood productions of the day. So again, this came out in '89, and it looks up to standard with most American like action or sci-fi films. It's kind of astounding the not only the variety but also just the scale of some of the special effects that went into this movie. There's even a stop motion special effects test footage that was shot for this film when they were deciding how they were going to render the final monster at the end of the film. But yeah, this is a wild Godzilla movie. It holds the distinction of being one of the very few like direct sequel Godzilla films as well. It is a direct sequel to Godzilla 1984, and actually, I told Kyle that after he told me he couldn't get into it that much. I was like, oh well, you do realize that it is a sequel. You know, the opening of that one is actually the end of the previous one. He was like, oh, I was not aware of that, nor did I care. And I was like, I'm sorry, Kyle. I probably should have told you before you went out of your way to try to watch that. But yeah, this one's coming out on Criterion, and you better fucking believe I'm going to get it because this is one of my personal favorites. I've loved it since I first saw it. Koichi Sugiyama's score for it is top tier. It's like top 5 best Godzilla scores of all time in a series that has some of the best scores of my personal memory.
Mhm.
Yeah, I love this one. I'm really, really, really excited to see the treatment that Criterion gives it.
So somebody who's a bit of an outsider,
Yeah,
haven't seen all the Godzilla films. Would you say? Now I know you had this personal connection to it. Da 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 da. Listen, I don't listen. I love that, but that's not what I'm asking about right now. All
yeah.
right. For Criterion, would you say, like objectively, you think this is, maybe aside from the original, this is like maybe the one to get that Criterion treatment? Like it feels right.
Hmm.
That wasn't a question, I know, but do you understand? You understand what I'm saying?
um, it doesn't feel right in some respects because of its placement in the overall franchise. Like I said, it's a direct sequel to another film which is
Yeah.
not in the Criterion collection. That's a weird way to go about things, especially if I mean they have the entire Showa series. They have 1954 to 1975 in one box. That's great.
Hmm.
When it comes to everything beyond that in the Godzilla franchise, though, we have 1984. No, no. 1989. Yes. 1991 to 95. No. Everything else beyond that. No. So it's just this like weird thing where it's like, hang on, you have the sequel, but not the first movie. It feels kind of weird. It feels like maybe they should have put out 1984 before Godzilla versus Biollante. I imagine the rights issues when it comes to Godzilla movies are probably very difficult. I mean, dealing with Japanese media conglomerates is a pain in the fucking ass. They are notoriously protective of their properties. Remember, these are the people who said Bowser needs to be bigger than Zangief, Brad. I don't know if you heard about this. Have you seen this? Have you heard about this?
I don't think so.
So I haven't seen Wreck It Ralph, but I did read about it, about the making of it, and Capcom owns the rights to Street Fighter, and Zangief is featured in the film. Bowser from Mario Brothers or whatever is a Nintendo property. I don't know if these two examples are actually real, but what I'm saying is two different media corporations got together in a room with lawyers and said, our guy has to be bigger than their guy because that's just how that's done. Like it's like if you misrepresent my client Bowser, like you will be sued out the ass, Disney. And same goes for Roger Rabbit. Um, Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse had to have equal time. They had to have equal screen time, and the solution to that problem was to have them in the same shot at all times. Like have them have exactly equal time, be on camera together. And
Mhm.
that's kind of how Japanese media, like IP owners, operate. They're very protective of their stuff. But yeah, I mean the quality of the film, I think would qualify it. Um, but yeah, just the placement and it being a sequel to something feels a little bit off. By the way,
Yeah.
Santino contributed. That is hard because there's some characters that come back that they don't really catch up who they are. You're supposed to know who they are once you see them. I think I think there are no I think all the characters, like the cast of characters in Godzilla versus Biollante are I don't think there's any carryover from 1984, but there are Miki Saigusa. She's the psychic girl with ESP stuff. She's featured in all the movies thereafter, but this is her first appearance. Dario contributes lawyers are silly, silly geese, silly gooses. But yeah, kind of a shitty roundabout answer to your question, Brad. But yes and no.
That's how the world works, man.
You think you're gonna get it?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Who needs money?
I mean, there was a time where I was like trying to get every Criterion 4K. That time is kind of passed by, but you never know. Could come back.
It's a lot of movies these days. Santino contributes. She has big ears. Well, statement of fact. Like I can't argue that. Miki does have big ears. So yeah, that was my last pick. So hey, Brad, you want to head into the speed round?
Yeah, we can do that.
All right. Looks like you're grabbing your shit right now. You good to go? You want to be the first one out the gate?
Sure. You can take a second and prepare yourself.
All right. So folks, what's about to happen here is something we call the speed round, wherein we're just going to be talking about our runner-up picks. That is movies that we set aside to talk about today, but just didn't have time to get to in earnest. So the format from here on out is going to be just kind of like a slightly faster paced show and tell, but we're still going to be commenting. We're still going to be having dialogue here. But Brad has the floor. So, hey, Brad, go ahead. Head into the speed round. What you got?
A movie that is maybe on top of mind for some, and I believe you guys mentioned it a little bit in your Nosferatu episode. I have Bram Stoker's Dracula, Francis Ford Coppola's, with
Okay.
the slipcover that I drove all the way all around town. I had to go to Walmart. They didn't. The Best Buy it looked like this.
Yep.
Yes, you didn't go
Yep.
to Walmart, Trevor. You got to go to Walmart for the
I've
slipcover.
said it. I've set foot in a Walmart like twice in my life, Brad.
I don't
I'm
go to
from
Walmart either,
Seattle.
but
I'm from Seattle. Walmart's not welcome here. That's how we do.
listen. Listen. I'm not a fan either. But when I went to Best Buy and I saw it sitting on the shelf like this, and I thought this just came out today. Where's the slipcover? I had to go on Blu-ray.com and go through pages and pages of forums, and I saw somebody say you can get the slipcover at Walmart, and I went and they had it. So there you
All right.
go.
I'm gonna interject here because I'm the host. I can do that. You said you listened to the Nosferatu episode,
Yes.
so I had a wild ass tangent in the last half hour of that episode. Did you happen to hear it? Did you happen to retain it to any degree?
Maybe I didn't finish the episode. I'm trying to think. What was it?
So spoilers for Nosferatu, folks. Well, maybe not all the way spoilers, but if you don't want to hear anything about Robert Eggers's Nosferatu, which is currently in theaters and came out on Christmas Day, I think in 2024. I had a theory that the vampire isn't real. That is entirely a delusion, like a shared delusion on the part of everybody in the film.
Interesting. I must not have finished because I don't remember this at all.
Okay, well, we don't have to get into it here, but I'm just putting it out into the world. We have 6 people watching right now. All 6 of those people now know about my theory and are probably going to co-opt it from me. So if I'm correct, if it's this wonderful, wonderful idea that no one else had, now 6 people have it and are probably going to fart it all over the internet and claim it as their own. I can talk at you later if you want.
I'm just coming up in the last half hour of the episode, so I must
Ah,
just be there.
okay. Well, I did a very, very, very poor job of articulating it because Kyle stonewalled me. He was giving me nothing. Like his facial expression was. You ever seen that part in Scanners when that dude's head blew up, Brad?
Yeah.
It was that. It was the
Interesting.
preamble to that. I was talking to a fucking brick wall for a half an hour.
I'm gonna on my drive to work, I'm gonna listen to this and I'll report back on your theory tomorrow and
Please,
see what I
please
think.
do, because he didn't give me much of anything in response, so I'm really curious if I'm nuts
Yeah.
or if it holds some water. So anyway, Trevor has a wild theory about Nosferatu, and I'm kind of curious to hear if anyone else thinks it holds some water. So anyway, Brad, sorry to have interrupted you, but you
No,
mentioned
no.
vampires. You mentioned by name our review of Nosferatu, so I had to do some self promotion just then. But hey,
Yeah.
head back into that speed round. Head back to the speed force, if you will. Santino gets that reference. You don't. Or no, you do probably because you saw that Flash movie, right?
Yes, I did. Yes.
I
But
didn't.
not in style.
I won't.
Um, this was a little bit of a cheat, but I saw it on my shelf and I was like, you know what? I've only watched this once, so I pulled it off. I have Leave No Trace. And one of the reasons I pulled it off is because I got it at Family Video here. I got a Family
Yeah,
Video
that's great.
closeout, and I said I gotta. Mostly, to be honest, I bought it for the sticker, just for the nostalgia. I'm like, there's the Family Video sticker. It just was like, but no, I really did like it. And when I saw it, I think it was like whatever year it came out, kind of like a late in the year cramming for top 10 list, and I was really impressed by it. So I'd like to see this one again.
Is that Ben Foster on the cover there?
Yep, Ben Foster and Thomasin McKenzie, who she's kind of like she was in the Edgar Wright movie, the Last Night in
Jojo.
Soho,
Yeah, she was in that and Jojo Rabbit, I think,
Jojo
before that.
Rabbit. Yeah, but I think this was her breakthrough. And yeah, it's a really good movie about a father and daughter who live off the grid and just, you know, quiet, contemplative kind of drama thing if you're into that kind of shit.
Okay.
I have The Batman, which
Hey,
mostly just because I did finish watching The Penguin not that long ago.
trying to get the fiance to watch The Penguin. Is it a good one?
It's good. It's good. Not like mind blowingly good, but it's worth a watch for sure.
All right. She hated the Batman. I really, really, really liked the Batman. I I don't meet many people who agree with me on that. She hated the Batman, but I do have her on the hook to watch Penguin with me.
Yeah. I think it's pretty watchable and accessible for most. Like, yeah, even if she didn't like I don't know why she didn't like the Batman specifically, but I think she would still like the Penguin. I don't think they're,
Okay.
you know,
It's like 8 episodes, right?
yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Okay. She can do that standing on her head.
Yeah. Um, I've got the Invisible Man. What Lee
Oh.
Winnell, is that the guy? I believe.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just watched his version of the Wolfman. And it was okay, but made me want to go back and revisit this one, which I thought was very good.
Yeah, we reviewed that for the podcast, and Kyle and I actually want to go see the Wolfman in the theater. Unfortunately, the theater that we were planning to go to doesn't have it, so like we had to rethink our strategy, and now we're both busy, and it just looks like it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, you can probably wait to watch it. I mean, I wouldn't, you can watch it at home.
It's all right.
Yeah, it's okay.
You're all right. Okay.
This next one, I think what happened was I was just like listening on Spotify and Amy Mann popped up on my Spotify. Amy Mann, the great Amy Mann. And it made me want to rewatch Magnolia,
Oh,
which is a movie that I always want to rewatch, but it's a tough one because it's over 3 hours and I don't often get the opportunity. to rewatch it, but I love it, and I love the Amy Mann music in it as well. Foxcatcher. This is another one that when I was thinking of movies to rewatch, I was just looking at my shelf and I was like, man, I haven't watched Foxcatcher in a long time. That's a great movie.
That is a
Um,
great movie. I liked it a
yeah.
lot.
And Bennett Miller, I don't know if he's done anything since this, but like the guy doesn't make movies often, but when he does, they're all like, I would say this is probably my favorite of his, but like they're all pretty universally acclaimed. Like they're all always nominated for Oscars, like Moneyball. He did Capote, and this one, which I thought this was, I don't know what year this came out, but I thought it was crazy that this movie it got 5 Oscar nominations, including one for Best Director. And I believe this was in the era of 10 nominees, and it still didn't get a Best Picture nomination. I thought, what? Huh?
Yeah, yeah, that is an excellent film.
Yeah.
Like all three of those performers are terrific in it. Like Channing Tatum and Mark Ruffalo. Like Steve Carell was the guy who got all like the buzz because he's wearing the makeup appliances and he's being fucking weird in it.
Hmm.
Um, but those other two fellas, they did some really amazing stuff. Like the just simple things like their body language, their posture, the
Yep.
way that they communicate with so much just raw physicality, like through their wrestling and stuff. There's a particular stance, a particular gait that they have that feels so true to life. I really enjoyed that, and now that you've now that you've introduced it to the conversation, I'm like, man, I wouldn't mind rewatching that one. But yeah,
Yeah.
Brad literally rattled off like all of this guy's movies except for The Cruise is a documentary from
Hmm.
1998, and apparently he has two films in development, one of which has no title and one of which is apparently a Christmas Carol, like an
Really
adaptation presumably, but it
interesting.
has no, it's a TBA, it's in development, who fucking knows if that's even going to happen. So he does not work very often.
Yeah, but this one, I'd probably say it's my favorite of his. I do really like Moneyball also.
Yeah,
Um,
that is a incredibly watchable film.
yes, the only I think I don't like about it is the song at the end that plays in the car, because it does not make sense because it's implied that his daughter wrote the song, even though the events of the movie take place before that song ever came out. So it's
Oh,
very confusing.
it's a anachronism.
Yeah, if you know if you know the song, it just it sours the whole experience. So,
Yeah, that movie's funny because my Seattle Mariners are kind of the antagonists of the movie,
oh
because it takes place during, I think, the 116 game season,
yeah.
when it's the history of the Mariners. They win when they don't need to. Basically, they're experts at, they're spoilers. They're really good at beating people they're not, that they don't need to, but when it counts, they tend to choke. But yeah, they had the winningest season of all time, and then they choked. But all throughout that movie, there's a lot of whispers of like, "Those goddamn Mariners." It's like, ah, that's me.
Hmm.
That's my team.
I don't know how I would feel, but actually, no, I think I'd be okay with that because not that I'm a big basketball head, but
Mm,
I loved The Last Dance, and the Pistons were often portrayed as the villains in the early part of that documentary series,
mhm.
and I still love that series. So no, I think I would be able to get over my fandom if the movie called for it.
No, I think
Interesting
it's
though.
kind of fun. Like
Yeah,
it's kind of interesting hearing people shit talk. Like it's like, oh wait, that's my team from like an era that I was around for.
yeah. Getting to see Michael Jordan crying because he lost to the Pistons, who were the bad boys, and
Detroit.
saying how mean they were. It's like, all right, Michael Jordan, I don't you did fine. You don't need to think back on the seasons you lost. All right. Anyway,
So you get for
um,
fucking with the Motor City.
I love The Last Dance. That if I owned that, that would be in this. I would love to rewatch The Last Dance.
I need to watch that. I've heard it's the like one of the best sports docs of all time.
It's the best. Last thing. Now, this is not really specifically a rewatch of the movie, but I want to do. I mean, I guess it is kind of. I have Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which
Oh,
I don't really have much of an interest in rewatching the literal movie, but the behind the scenes. What do they call it? The raw cut.
yeah.
I still have not watched, and I would love to watch the movie in the raw cut, which is the movie before any final visual effects are put in, so you can watch the humans pretending to be apes and have fun with it.
Yeah, watch the raw pink meat
Yeah.
of the film.
Yes.
Yeah, I haven't watched that one yet, but I have all the other modern Planet of the Apes films on 4K, and I've heard, I to my surprise, the promotion for that movie just didn't look very interesting to me. To my surprise, the reviews for it came through, and it's apparently quite good. And I'm a sucker for performance capture technology. I'm gonna blind buy that one
Hmm.
and do exactly what you're gearing up to do. I would love to watch the raw pink meat cut of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a step down for compared to the Matt Reeves movies, but I still think I liked it. I thought it was good. Like it just, once your expectations are in check, I think you'll be very pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, the Matt Reeves movies are operating on a different wavelength, I think. Like the vibe I got from Kingdom is it's a bit of a reset. It's like
Mhm.
we're leaning into spectacle and special effects and we're just trying to tell a good story. Whereas Matt Reeves, it's like there's a lot of like messaging here. Like there's a lot of really heavy layered theming in his movies that are really impressive stuff. And the cinematography in both of them is terrific. Like
I think
especially Dawn. Like there's some shots in there that are
yeah,
just really gorgeous.
you might be surprised. There's some like actual interesting ideas in
Yeah,
this one too. Like it's not
it
just
sounded like a almost like a religious parable or something,
yeah,
where it's
yep,
like a co-opting of a religious message or something, where it's
yep,
like we
yeah.
have our prophet, but now that he's gone, let's put a little bit of a spin on this. Let's,
Ver I really like where they took it. I thought it was like kind of the best you could do with what you were given with Caesar and all that. So
what what is the fella's name? It's Kevin something or other. He was also in that Abigail movie. He plays the
yeah,
antagonist in it. Big
not
big guy. He played Santino. He played the Blob in X-Men Origins Wolverine. Kevin
yeah.
Dunn, not Kevin Dunn. Kevin Dunn. Kevin Dunn's great. We love Kevin Dunn. I can't remember his name. Anyway, I've watched some behind the scenes footage of him doing his performance capture stuff, and he
Mhm.
he went for it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Anyway, so that's it for your speed round.
Yep, that's all I got.
All right. Well, ball is to me, I suppose. So I actually intended to lead with these, but these are some joke picks that I just have to throw them out there just to antagonize Brad. So any conversation about movies that I have on my mind and I think I want to watch right fucking now, Goon. we
Yeah.
have we have to bring
Yep.
up Goon.
How did I
Goon
not know
needs to
that was
make an
coming?
appearance on every single episode of Tales from the Shelf. And also on that same note, more of a recent thing, a recent development, Brad. Um, we have here a series of films: The Roundup, Punishment,
Yes.
The Roundup, No Way Out, The Roundup, no subtitle. And I presume it says The Outlaws. It does say The Outlaws in Korean and English because this is a Korean Blu-ray with a really fancy box. Kevin Durand, thank you. Santino contributed that. That is the name of the villain from Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes / the Blob from X-Men Origins Wolverine. Thanks for that. Um, anyway, those are my joke picks. These days, I always have the Roundup movies on my mind. Uh, I'm surprised you didn't give me Goon. Santino, I gave you Captain America. Shut the fuck up. I gave you an MCU movie. That
I think he
it
means
doesn't
for
get better than that for you.
I think he means for his assignment picks that you gave
Oh,
him.
I could have given that man Goon. I could have given him the Goon. Fuck. Did I blow it, Brad?
Next year. Next year.
Next time, baby. He was also in Abigail. I just said that, Santino. God, clean the shit out of your ears. Anyway, now we'll proceed into the actual picks because, like I said, in recent days, I do think about those Roundup movies all the fucking time. Something about them is magic, cinema magic. The Fablemans,
Mm,
the Steven Spielberg semi-autobiographical film.
yep.
It's a little saccharine. It's a little melodramatic, such that I could see this movie really not working for a lot of people. Where it's like that's corny, but there's some scenes in this movie, man, that just are incredible. Like Spielberg, he's still got the magic, maybe not all the time, maybe not consistently. I did hear that his West Side Story is really good, but nobody fucking watched it, including me. I For that reason I would like to watch it because I heard it's really good actually. And Spielberg still got it apparently, even though he's handing off things like Indiana Jones to James Mangold, who didn't do a great job with it. Anyway, I was talking about this movie with Kyle the other day. Same conversation. I was telling him about Judd Hirsch in this movie, Brad. Um, and do you recall the scene that I'm referencing here?
Yeah, he's really only in like one scene,
He's
but
in like one scene, and
hmm
holy shit, it's a scene. It's like a 3-4 minute dialogue sequence, and I think he was nominated for an Oscar for it, and
yep.
I kind of bought it. Like
hmm
I have rewatched that scene many times, and it's kind of similar to like an American movie or Ed Wood for me, where it's like one of those like inspirational things, where it's like if I find myself like floundering or like wondering why I'm putting my time towards the things that I'm putting them towards, like this podcast, for instance. I reach for things like that, and Judd Hirsch's speech in this, his dialogue, um, is special, and connecting things to the beginning of our conversation, David Lynch is seen as well as John Ford. David Lynch is in this film, and I think it's one of the highest honors that one can be given. That John Ford is spoken of as the greatest living director. That's how in the fiction of the movie of the Fablemans, that's how John Ford is presented. And of all the souls on the planet, Steven Spielberg picked David Lynch, non-actor David Lynch, to portray him. I think that's a sign of the man's respect for the other man. I,
Yeah.
I really that's how that reads. Like I don't think there's any other way you can read that. But yeah, Fablemans has been on my mind largely because of that conversation I had with Kyle, but also just anytime an artist is struggling, like they need a little slap, and Judd Hirsch, that slap is it's kind of a two-way slap where it's like a slap forward and a slap back at the same time, and sometimes that's the best kind of slap.
hmm
Sticks with you for sure. Um, Dune Part One. Uh, couldn't tell you exactly why, but for some reason I had Denis Villeneuve's Dune, both Part One and Part Two, but starting with Part One, I think because it's been longer since I've seen it. For some reason, I had that on my mind. Um, Creed 3, of all things. Michael B. Jordan directed Creed 3. And did we review this one together, Brad? I can't remember.
I
I think we
think we
did.
did. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because
That sounds right. Feels right.
yeah, the Rocky franchise is very, very near and dear to me. It's like one of the most important film series for me. Godzilla and Rocky. Those are my two most important film series in the world to me, basically. This movie is very, very uneven and seemed to be a little bit of a troubled production, being as Jonathan Majors, I don't know if his troubles had started up in the midst of like post production for this one, but I suspect that they had. The structure of it's a little wonky. In general, it's just the weakest of the three Creed movies, the first of which being excellent, second one being very good, but definitely trending in a different direction than the first one. But this one just feels like off in a lot of respects. But I found myself thinking about it recently for whatever the fuck reason. And I think on a thematic level, like in terms of characters and narrative and theming, there are some very interesting ideas in this film. They're just not expressed very well. And I think a lot of it has to do with how the Jonathan Majors character and how he relates to Michael B. Jordan's character. I think that character relationship had so much potential to have so much more depth and be so much more interesting. But the movie seems in such a hurry to gloss over so much of that. Like the second, like not even the second half, like the last third of this movie is just it sprinting to the finish line. Like it
hmm
feels like there's so much fucking missing from this movie to the point where it's like I I don't think I quite understand why we're fighting. Like I don't quite understand how we got here. Like the lead up to it is actually very, very good. But then Jonathan Majors develops beef with Michael B. Jordan's character, and then it just goes, and then
Mhm.
a lot of stuff happens really fast, and then the movie's over, and you can see that like the bones are there for something really fascinating, like a really interesting cultural and character examination, like culture especially, like masculinity seems to be something they're targeting and perhaps trying to like dig a little deeper into in this, but they don't go for it. Like they really don't dig into it as much as they could have. So a lot of potential, and sometimes those are the movies that fascinate me the most, the ones that have good ideas but don't quite execute, because it's fun for thought exercises. That I liked Nosferatu quite a lot, but that was actually part of why I enjoyed it so much, is because it gave me a lot to chew on. Dario says, "All right, gentlemen, have a good night. I'm off to sleep." Good night, Dario. Thanks for stopping by, man. Appreciate it. Uh, Speaking of prisoners, another Denis Villeneuve movie.
I rewatched that this past year, and that was a good rewatch. It was good.
I've seen it like 3 times now, and I've really enjoyed it every single time. My fiance has not seen this one, and she likes both of these fellas. I'm curious to see how she'll react to Hugh Jackman in this one, though, because he's portrayed in a very poor light in a lot of instances in it. But that man wants that Oscar so badly, but he just can't seem to get it. And unfortunately, it seems like a lot of his big dramatic roles go underseen. Like Bad Education was excellent. Did you see that one, Brad?
Yeah, I did. But while we're on the subject of Oscar, that one I believe was bought by HBO, so he was up for an Emmy for that one.
Oh, so they
So
they fucked him.
he probably when he found out HBO acquired that after TIFF or Sundance or whatever, I would love to just be a fly on the wall of that room. He was probably throwing shit, and he's like, "I don't want an Emmy, I want an Oscar."
No, what you do is you cut directly to Hugh Jackman in
Yeah.
Prisoners, hitting that sink with that hammer,
Yep. Yep.
yelling at Paul Dano. Yeah, no, Bad Education was excellent. He was excellent in it, and then he did that. I still haven't seen it, but I for some reason I enjoy checking out these Oscar bid movies that he does that nobody watches. The Front Runner, where he has a shitty haircut, Brad. He has a really shitty haircut in it.
Oh
That's
yeah.
literally all I know about, is that he got some award buzz for it. Nobody saw it, and he has a shitty haircut. That was his sacrifice, Brad. Some ladies get fat. Hugh Jackman gets a shitty haircut.
Yeah. Yeah, I never saw that one, but that was a Jason Reitman movie, I believe.
Oh, no shit. Santino comments, "Why do the faces look like PS3 graphics?" And he also says, "It's okay. He'll be Wolverine until he's 90." To quote Deadpool and Wolverine. Um, yeah, real bad Photoshop here, by the way. Real bad photoshopping. They're just smeared to shit. They look, actually, Santino, uh, you would get this reference, being as you mentioned the PS3. Heavy Rain. The movie itself makes me think of that game, Heavy Rain, and this representation of these actors' faces may as well be PS3 graphics. Speaking of Santino, he's the man of the hour apparently. Bone Sickness
Oh
on
no.
DVD from Morbid Vision Films, and I had told Brad this, but I read the back of the box, and on closer examination, I think there are no less than 3 typos on the back of this box.
Wow.
Yeah, I assigned Santino Bone Sickness as his homework for the Cinema Speak podcast, which you should definitely be listening to. Um, but I realized I have not watched Bone Sickness myself in many, many, many years. And so after having assigned him that as homework, I was like, you know what? It's time for some Bone Sickness.
Mhm. Mhm.
uh, I have here a trilogy of films in my hand. These are Hong Kong Blu-rays, English subtitled though. These have been released domestically though. Now, the Rurouni Kenshin movies, the live-action ones. This is a based on a manga and an anime from the 90s. It was made into a anime in that era. which I watched. It was one of the first anime that I ever got like somewhat invested in, or very very early in life. The live action movies, I believe, are the best iteration of that particular story. But I recently found out that they are currently airing in Japan right now. There is a contemporary Kenshin anime that started in 2023 and is currently airing. So having heard about that, like it got my interest level up again. It's like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, I remember that. I remember really really liking that. Will I check out the new one? Not sure, but maybe. But now I have those movies on the mind again, and here we are. Cinderella Man. This is this is a meme in my household because this has been sitting in my to do my ready to be watched drawer by the TV for about as long as I've lived in this apartment at this point. My fiance agreed to watch this with me a few years ago, and we still haven't gotten to it. And now I see it's like, I think it's on Netflix, maybe, or one of the major streaming services. And so now when she's like flipping through things, I'll poke her. I'll like poke her in the shoulder and be like, hey, you know, Cinderella Man's a good movie. And we'll probably never watch it, but I always kind of want to, even though it's not like an amazing movie. It's not like my favorite movie or
Yeah.
anything.
I've never seen it.
It's a Ron Howard, so
Yeah.
it's fine. Russell Crowe's good in it. The boxing is actually quite good in it. Like the representation of boxing of that vintage is actually pretty well done. And the period vibes, the aesthetic of it is really charming. Like the production design is one of its better strengths. So yeah, very good, and it has that like crowd pleasing kind of vibe to it. Very watchable, but too damn long for my fiance. Yes, Santino Kenshin is the red haired samurai with the X scar on his cheek, and Beavis and Butthead Do America, because I always think of Beavis and Butthead Do America. It's one of my favorite comedies. It's one of the very few comedies I own, and I quote it basically every day.
Yep. You push that one a lot too, because you guys you covered that with who was it you
Richie,
covered? Yeah, yeah.
Richie from the Super Media Bros podcast. That's another one bites the dust. I think that's another podcast that has shuttered in the past couple of years. He's doing a new one though that I haven't listened to yet. It's called Cult Macabre, but I think it's a project with his partner, which
Nice.
is kind of neat. I think that's neat when a couple can podcast together. But yeah, he and I just did Beavis and Butthead impressions the entire episode. He was
It was that, and there was two movies. It was
Dude, Where's My Car?
yes, that's the
two
one. Yes.
two buffoon movies, two stupid young people,
No,
two stupid young men movies.
that was a good episode. I liked that one a lot.
Yeah, it was a very good pairing. Like it was like you're whining your cheese. Have you seen the new Beavis and Butthead episodes? Santino asks. No, I've heard they're actually good though. Like I've heard they're pretty good. Mike Judge, talented fella. I've always maintained that Mike Judge sees people. Like the way he represents his characters, he has a knack for distilling characters in like finding the substance, the essence of people, and putting them up on the screen in such a way that you feel like you kind of have met all of these people. Like everyone in King of the Hill, it's like, oh fuck, I know every single one of these fuckers. I have met every single one of these fucks. Yeah. Same goes for Beavis and Butthead. But yeah, I haven't watched the new Beavis and Butthead stuff. But this movie is special to me. I didn't actually really watch Beavis and Butthead that much. Like the music video stuff would play late night on MTV sometimes when I was a kid. But in general, it was more like my brother's thing. He's 4 years older than me, so it's more age appropriate for him than myself. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's all my things that are on my mind of things to watch. And yeah, I've been hearing that there's a new King of the Hill in the works for like a decade now. I think it's very strange that they're doing that, being as Tom Petty is dead, Brittany Murphy is dead, the guy who does the voice of Khan can't do the voice of Khan anymore because he's a white guy doing the voice of a Laotian character, and that's not okay anymore. And also that guy does the voice of Cotton Hill, one of the better characters on King of the Hill, who is dead. So no less than 3, maybe 4 major cast members aren't going to be in it. Little
Well,
fucked up. Seriously, Tom Petty and Brittany Murphy are dead. Luann and Lucky can't come back unless
it
you recast them.
just shows the content machine never dies.
I like King of the Hill a lot, but I would be fine if King of the Hill just ended. It had a very good ending.
Yeah.
Great last episode. Did you watch King of the Hill at all?
Not every episode or anything, but yeah, I remember when it was on, I would watch it, and I did see the last episode, and I thought it was good. It was
Yeah,
very subtle and underplayed, but I liked it.
yeah. Like when it's like one of those things that in the moment when you're watching it, it's like, oh, this feels fine, and then like in retrospect, it's like, oh wow, that was actually very artful.
Mm-hmm.
That was
Yeah.
a sweet way to close the book on things.
Mm-hmm.
They'll write them off somehow.
They'll just all be dead.
Yeah, they'll say Lucky and Luann's trailer like got washed away in a flood or something. That's the premise of the new show: is that my niece is dead.
Yeah.
King of the Hill, the dark times. Anyway, so yeah, that's ready, set, rewatch.
Yeah.
That I guess wraps up our conversation for this month in January 2025. So, hey Brad, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
It's always a pleasure to be here. This was a
Yeah, man.
blast.
Oh yeah, this was a blast. I had a lot of fun. We got some good comments tonight. That I'm really glad that seems to be working out pretty well. But before we go, hey Brad, how about you let our 5 viewers know where they can find you and your super awesome podcast?
Well, thank you, Trevor. It's the Cinema Speak podcast. We're everywhere you'd find podcast: iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify. We're on Twitter at Cinema Speak, Instagram Cinema Speak Podcast, and on YouTube as Cinema Speak. And you can also just find us on the web at cinemaspeak.libsyn.com.
All right, well said. And being as the new episode is dropping tomorrow,
should be.
What would you care to tease what we've got coming out this week on the Cinema Speak podcast?
Well, this past weekend we had our live awards ceremony for our 9th annual Speakies, our Cinema Speak Awards, where we hand out trophies and count down our top 10 lists. And instead of doing a regular episode this week, I decided let's just put up an audio recording of the award ceremony. So that's what's coming up. Hopefully tomorrow it'll be up. I'm just waiting to get the audio file from the Memorial Hall because we recorded using their mics and everything. But yeah, it should be cool.
Yeah, so folks, this week we're getting a special rebroadcast, essentially, like recorded but distributed after the fact.
For those who couldn't be in attendance.
Exactly. I was there.
Yes.
I got to see all of it.
You were backstage for you. Honestly, you didn't see a lot. You were backstage for most of it, but we're having a lot of fun backstage.
People talk, Brad. You know, people. You know, it carries behind the curtain.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you know. But yeah, look forward to that tomorrow. I'm going to tell all my friends about that because I'm in it. So yeah, as for myself and catching up on cinema, it's called Catching Up on Cinema. You're watching it right now. Maybe you're listening to it after the fact, after I repost it to the podcast feed. I'm on social media, but I don't use it anymore, so I'm not going to advertise there. But the show is called Catching Up on Cinema. It's available on pretty much every podcasting platform you can imagine. I'm trying to do YouTube stuff live about twice a month. This would be an example of that. Lately, I've been doing the Catching Up on Blu-ray episodes live as well, though, just kind of for funsies. So tune into those if you have time, and you get the notification. But yeah, in the meantime, show's Catching Up on Cinema, and we will catch you next time.